Oh, we're doing it. Lucy, you like went to sleep as soon as we got started. You were like, I'm tired. I don't want to be. I'm outie. How was your morning? How was your breakfast? Was it good? What's up, Jesus? How are you? What's up, Karen? Good morning to you. I hope you are well. What's up, Andre? Good to see everybody. Happy Monday. What's up, Spider? Happy Monday. Also a good band. And it's Music Monday. Howdy, howdy, Austin. I hope everybody is spectacular. I hope everybody is living well, enjoying their time, doing a little dance. I went dancing Saturday night. That's what I did. I went to a soul night and I danced. Meow, Tim. What's up? Paul, my cat is right here. She's actually kind of being blocked by my lower third a little bit, almost, it looks like. But she is like right here. Lucy, do you want to say hi to the camera? You want to? Oh, she just perked up. I think the door opened next door. She just perked up because of that. But anyway, yeah. So, what's up, Pam? What's up, Inks Pixels? What's up, Pacific Northwest Vegan? What's up, Dan? I guess you got to go to Jimmy's show in St. Louis. That's awesome. Glad you had a good time. What's up, Justine? I hope Tippy is having a lovely nap. Let's see here. Ron, when are y'all coming up to NorCal? We will definitely be up there at some point in 2020 for sure. I don't know when exactly, but we will be up there in 2020. B-Dub, Ron, see you in Omaha. I will see you there. We're coming to Omaha in September. I am stoked for that. And I will see you there as well. Good morning, everybody. What's up, Chris? What's up, Zolkslix? What's up, Daniel? What's up, Edwin? Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, whatever it is where you're at. And let's go ahead and get started. All right. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means you guys tweet me articles, you send me ideas, and that's how we build the show. We're just a group of folks trying to get our news on together, trying to figure it out. So we talked last week about how Mike Gravel was screwed out of the debate stage. He met the threshold of donors, but then the DNC made these other rules about how you needed a certain type of polling, and the polls were the one that they bestowed their blessing upon. So they were able to figure out a way to keep him off of the debate stage. They do this all the time. In 2008, they made up these other rules that got Dennis Kucinich off that stage as soon as possible. This is what the DNC does. They've done it again. Now, this is a problem, but there's also another problem of some of these candidates not having any self-awareness whatsoever. We're going to go see what's going on the campaign trail, in particularly at John Delaney's camp. Check this out. All right, so check this video out. Look at this. All right, so this is taken in Iowa. So this is from Daniel Newhouser. Delaney's and Bernie's Council Bluffs, Iowa campaign headquarters right next to each other. So Delaney and Bernie, they have their campaign headquarters right next to each other. And this was taken over the weekend. Check this out. So what's going...
Yeah, I just rode over from Omaha.
So what's going on here is at Delaney's camp, there was literally nothing going on. Like just nothing. Here, check it out. And here, we'll do it without the sound because there's not really anything to hear. All right, so there's no one there. Absolutely no one there. They're asking people to please come in. They're begging people to come in. There's one staffer who can't even pretend to look enthusiastic. And now here's Bernie's. Here's Bernie's. It's packed with people. Packed with people. I mean, look at how sad that is. And they have a thing where they're saying, please come in. They're saying, please, please come in. You know, please come in is the new please clap. John Delaney is the Jeb Bush of the campaign trail so far. That is exactly what he is. Please come in is the new please clap. And no one's there. I mean, it was amazing. There was one staffer standing there. That staffer couldn't even pretend to look excited. I don't blame the staffer. I blame John Delaney for not having any amount of self-awareness. Here's something else that happened. Check this out. John Delaney excited to be on the debate stage in 2 weeks and talk about real solutions to healthcare, public education, economic opportunity, and the impact of technology, not make impossible promises. So here was my response. You have spent millions of dollars to become a grossly unpopular laughingstock. Your ratios on Twitter are horrific. If you weren't trying to deny healthcare to so many people, I'd actually feel sorry for you at this point. Hashtag dropout Delaney, which was a hashtag on Twitter that grew in popularity over the weekend. And check out these optics. Boom, 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 boom. John Delaney. John Delaney. Once again, I mean, and if you look at John Delaney's Twitter account, it is horrific. Horatio, the guy from Shakespeare, called John Delaney over the weekend, and he's like, I'm a Shakespearean character. I'm not even a real human, but you need to drop out. I know this. Trust me. I was alive centuries ago, sort of. Not really. I'm a fictional character. But even I know you need to drop out. No, you look at every Twitter ratio. It's absolutely appalling. It's absolutely terrible on his Twitter line. And once again, and I've tweeted at him multiple times. Every single time I've tweeted at him, I ended up getting more likes than he did. I hijacked a thread from him. John Delaney, once again, a comedian who streams a YouTube show from his living room. His co-host is a cat who's sleeping. Comedian streaming a show from his living room with a sleeping cat as a co-host. Once again, hijacked a thread from you. John Delaney has spent millions of dollars, like I said in the tweet, millions of dollars this man has spent on a presidential campaign, only to become a complete mockery. He gets booed most of the time when he talks. I don't even think he has 30,000 followers on Twitter. I think he has less than that. Millions of dollars this man has spent. Millions of dollars. He barely has more Twitter followers than I do. Millions of dollars. National television that this man has gotten. And his enthusiasm, that video we just showed, that summarizes his enthusiasm. And yet he still is trying to be president. This has a level of delusion, and I'm being sincere when I say this, by the way. I'm not embellishing for the camera's sake, or I'm not even trying to be humorous right now. I mean, this is a level of delusion that should be diagnosed. Like John Delaney at this point, I mean, I question the guy's sanity. I mean, how delusional do you have to be to not have any amount of self-awareness to realize I'm embarrassing myself. I'm humiliating myself. I'm embarrassing myself. I'm embarrassing my family. I'm embarrassing the country. I need to stop this. There is a Democratic clown car with underwhelming candidate after underwhelming candidate after underwhelming candidate. And I am at the bottom of the barrel there. That's where John Delaney is. John Delaney is the equivalent. The amount of delusion John Delaney has to still be in this race. It is the equivalent of, let's say, a guy played high school football, all right? And he was okay. You know, he got some playing time. He did some okay, made some okay plays, maybe even scored a touchdown or two. He was fine. Didn't go on to play college. Just, sat college out. Wasn't quite D1 material, decided he wanted to go to a D1 school, whatever, didn't play college football. Then all of a sudden, he's 27 years old, 28 years old, and he decides he's going to play in the NFL. He goes, you know what? I'm playing in the NFL. I feel like, I just feel like I can do this. And people are like, what? You didn't even play college ball. You've barely been working out. You haven't played football in almost a decade, pretty much a decade. You're going to play in the NFL? Yeah, I'm going to play in the NFL. And then somehow he does get into a couple trainings. Maybe he has some workouts. Maybe he gets to sit in on a practice or something like that. Because, hey, stranger things have happened. There have been there have been football players who had an underwhelming college career and maybe got like some type of walk-on opportunity, maybe somehow got on a roster last minute, and then bloomed in the NFL and had a reasonable NFL career. It does happen. So this guy somehow gets something. They're like, hey, you're 28. You haven't played since high school. You're underwhelming then. Maybe you crack some kind of code, though. Let's find out. And he starts playing. He finds out he is worse than he was in high school. His football skills have gotten worse. He's actually a terrible player. He's even worse than he was in high school, and he was average in high school. So at this point, this man is a below average high school football player, and he's 28 years old, and he thinks he's going to play in the NFL. And everybody's worried about him at this point because it's sort of delusional. Now his family's thinking, did he maybe sustain some kind of injury when he was playing, that he has these delusions of grandeur that he can play in the NFL? What's been going on with him? He's slacking off at his day job. He's not showing up on time because he thinks, well, in a couple of years, I'm going to be playing in the NFL. I'm going to be rich. And now his family's thinking about staging an intervention. John Delaney is the equivalent of that in politics. John Delaney is the equivalent of a below average high school football player who is 28 years old, someone who has the skills of a below average high school football player who is 28 years old, who thinks they're going to play in the NFL. That is the delusion of grandeur John Delaney has. And I know he's not really trying to be president. I know he's just trying to make the establishment apple cart happy by staying in there. But don't you have any amount of just self-awareness and you realize what you're doing? You're a tool for an entity that's trying to keep people from getting health care. How do you wake up in the morning, John? And I'm sure John Delaney's not going to watch this video, but on the slim chance that he does, you have to look in the mirror, John Delaney, and you have to go, I have no chance in hell at being president. I'm humiliating myself. I'm tarnishing my name. I'm embarrassing my family. I'm making a mockery of our political process. So in other words, you're making a mockery of something that's already a parody of itself. That's like you're like a mockery squared, basically. You're a parody of a parody of a parody of a parody, but there's nothing humorous about you. And the only purpose you're serving is that you are a tool for an entity that's trying to keep people from getting healthcare. An entity that's fine with the fact that thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people die per year because of lack of healthcare coverage. They're fine with that. They want to continue that. And you're helping them. The only entity you're helping is them. You're not helping this country. That's for damn sure. You're not helping people. You're not helping anybody except for the establishment. And I guess your staff who, that video is any indication, they even know it's time to hang up your spurs. I can't say for sure. I know that there were some rumors that members of his staff told him to quit. As far as I know, that hasn't been verified one way or the other, so I'm not going to say that happened or didn't happen because I don't know. But I will say, if there's anyone on his staff who genuinely calls him a friend, who looks at John Delaney and says, this is my friend, John Delaney is my friend, they should go up to him and say, you have to, get out. It's time. You're embarrassing yourself. You're humiliating yourself. John Delaney desperately needs a friend. He desperately needs an intervention. The same way the 28-year-old who is a below average high school football player as far as skill is concerned, who's neglecting their day job because they think they're going to play in the NFL. The same way that person needs an intervention, that imaginary person I just made up. That is the level of delusion John Delaney has. So, anyway, it'd be nice if he dropped out. All right, let's move on. And it'd be nice to see Mike Gravel on that debate stage. So we'll go to a little bit of music. Actually, you know what? We'll go to some health news first because, we're talking about the current healthcare system. We mentioned John Delaney, how the one thing he is doing is trying to keep people from getting healthcare. And, there's this delusion that somehow the status quo of our healthcare is okay. It's not okay. It's not okay for anybody. We're all, so many people, unless you are the 1% of the 1%, are just one emergency away from catastrophe or one health situation away from bankruptcy. In fact, healthcare bills are the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States. And here is another reason why that sort of thing happens. This is from NPR, Nice Polite Republicans. First came kidney failure, then there was the $540,842 bill for dialysis. So here's the story. For months, Sovereign Valentine had been feeling progressively run down. The 50-year-old personal trainer who goes by Sov tried changing his workout and diet, no avail. Finally, one Sunday, he drove himself to the hospital in the small town of Plains, Montana, where his wife, Jessica, happened to be the physician on call. I couldn't stop throwing up, he said. I was just toxic. Turned out he was in kidney failure, and he needed dialysis immediately. So this is a guy, personal trainer, probably a relatively healthy dude. He's a personal trainer. All of a sudden started feeling sick, didn't know what was up. Why am I feeling run down all the time? Why am I tired all the time? Thought maybe he needed a diet change. Thought maybe it was just, then all of a sudden he felt real sick. Then he finds out that could happen to anybody. That could happen to anybody. But let's move on. Let's see more of his story. I was in shock, he said, but I was so weak I couldn't even worry. He was too sick to worry. He was admitted to a nearby hospital that was equipped to stabilize his condition and to get his first dialysis session. Social worker there arranged for him to follow up with outpatient dialysis 3 times a week. She told them Sov had 2 options, and both were about 70 miles from his home. So he had to go to a kidney care clinic in Missoula, Montana. Now, a few days after the treatment began, an insurance case manager called the Valentines, warning them that this institution, this Fresenius Kidney Care Clinic, was out of their network. And they're going to have to pay whatever the insurer didn't cover. And then the bills started coming. So this is a person who's insured, by the way. This is the patient. This guy, Sov, he goes by Sov, Sovereign Valentine. 50 years old, personal trainer in Plains, Montana. He is insured by Allegiance through his wife's work as a doctor in a rural hospital. The bill was $540,841. So the insurer paid about 16 of that. That's over $500,000 that he has to pay. And he has health insurance. He lives in rural Montana, so everywhere was 70 miles away from his home. So he had to travel 70 miles to find out, oh, by the way, that's out of your network. You're going to have to pay for whatever the balance is. What's my other option? Die. That's your other option. You die. When you're suffering from kidney failure, you have to go get dialysis. And in most cases, it's a weekly thing. I had that happen to a friend of mine. A friend of mine woke up one day, and now he's in a little bit of a different situation than this Sov person. My friend who I'm referring to has struggled with health problems his entire life. But one day he woke up and his lip was enlarged, like it was just like he almost looked like a cartoon, and he didn't know what the hell was going on. He drove to the emergency room. The lip thing turned out to be just some kind of bizarre, weird reaction to a medication, and it was or it was some type of allergic reaction. I don't remember if a medication was involved or not. This was a little while back, but anyway, the lip thing ended up being something totally unrelated. But they found out that one of the other things going on with him that could have kind of amplified it was that his kidneys were failing. He didn't even know. He had no idea. So they found out his kidneys were failing, and before he knew it, one day he's just going about his day. The next day, he wakes up with this big lip, wonders what the hell's going on, finds out what it is, and then finds out some other news. Oh, by the way, your kidney's failing. So he had to go get dialysis twice a week. So twice a week he was going to dialysis. At the time, I was homeless. I was living in my car as a road comic, so I'd spend a lot of my time during the week living in his guest area and taking him to and from dialysis. It gave me a place to crash, and it gave him some company and somebody to help him out. Wasn't a high time in either of our lives, by the way. We were both. He's healthier now. He's a lot healthier now. He ended up getting a replacement kidney, and he's doing really well now. So we both kind of think back to that time and sort of laugh about it. It was not a high point for either one of us, but so my point is that could happen to anybody. That could happen to you or me tomorrow. That could happen to anybody. And then before you know it, you're $500,000 in debt because of this broken, ridiculous system. I mean, think about that. And this is somebody who has health insurance through, by the way, who was his health insurance through? His wife's work. What did his wife do? She was a doctor. This is the health insurance that doctors have. And even in that situation, something like this can happen. And when I say that, I'm not implying that a doctor deserves better health insurance than anyone else. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying that even in the medical field, it shows you how ridiculous broken our system is. It's not like this guy and his wife were self-employed in small business and didn't really have health care or something like that. Or they, purchased a not so great plan because they're like, oh, we're self-employed. We're just going to purchase a catastrophe plan. No, he's been insured his whole adult life. His wife's a doctor. You usually think like, oh, if someone's a doctor, you're going to get the type of plan that anyone will be happy to have. No, it turns out he had to travel 70 miles to get dialysis he needed. Otherwise, he was going to die. His kidneys failed. That'll be $500,000, please. This is a broken system. It is corrupt beyond repair. It is broken far beyond repair. And we need a single-payer Medicare for all system. That is what we need. Anybody who says they're going to build on Obamacare, they're going to build on Mitt Romney's health plan. Look, the insurance companies need to go bye-bye. They can't be left at the table the way they are now. They just can't be. It's like saying, hey, we got a pest control problem. Are we going to get rid of the pests? Or are we going to get rid of some of them, let some of them stick around? Compromise a little bit. We're gonna compromise with some of the pests. They can only chew up so much of the wood in the walls, just a little bit of it. Joe Biden would tell you, you got to leave some of the pests around. So would John Delaney. So would Beto O'Rourke. And they're wrong. They're wrong big time. And they're not wrong because they don't know any better. They're wrong because the insurance companies, their donors, pay them to be wrong. All right, let's go to a little bit of music news here. So Edwin shares this, and a lot of you guys know this. I've talked about this a lot. I'm a big Nirvana fan, which we'll get to our song of the day after this. Check this out. Nirvana is going to release a Live and Loud album on vinyl and streaming services. All right, so what's the deal with this live album? Nirvana are set to release their Live and Loud live album digitally and on vinyl for the first time. The 1993 live show, recorded at Pier 48 in the band's hometown of Seattle, was recorded by MTV just after the band had played their iconic MTV Unplugged set in New York City. The set was then released under the name Live and Loud for the 20th anniversary of In Utero in 2013, and next month it will come to streaming services and vinyl for the first time. And this will be released by Geffen on August 30th. That's pretty cool. It's one of those things where when it's a band who has a legacy like Nirvana, and especially when it's a band who's in the situation of Nirvana where they're not around anymore. Kurt Cobain's dead, so there's not going to be any new music from them unless it's something that has been previously recorded and unreleased. A lot of times the industry will kind of repackage things. They'll make a new anniversary, a new remix, and oftentimes it's just a kind of repackaging of something that's already out there, and it's kind of more marketing than anything else. But in the case of Nirvana, and I'm not saying run out and buy this or don't run out and buy this. That's your choice. Do what you want. But in the case of Nirvana, there is so much unreleased stuff. After he died, it was pretty much made clear there was a lot of unreleased stuff that was out there, which is pretty remarkable that happened, considering all the problems the band was having, considering Kurt Cobain's drug problems, considering Kurt Cobain was in and out of rehab, considering the family issues with the daughter. I mean, it's pretty amazing that there's still all these recordings out there. So a lot of times there is actually something that hadn't been available before that comes to the surface, because there's been the legal battles between Courtney Love and the other members of the band who kind of want this stuff out there. They think, hey, this would be great to give to the fans. Courtney Love traditionally had been a little more protective, and to my knowledge still is, but then is kind of allowing some of it to get out there. So I actually did not check out any of the Live and Loud stuff when it was released initially with the in utero repackage, because again, like a lot of that repackaged stuff, I just kind of, if I hear about it, great. If I don't, I usually don't really feel like I'm missing anything. But I would be curious to see that concert. At Pier 48, I used to live in Seattle, Washington, and Pier 48 is kind of down there a little ways. Most of the main kind of touristy areas are like Pier 66, Pier 59, so it's kind of in that number. So Pier 48 is a little further down, a little more towards kind of the actual docks. So it's a badass place for a concert, but it's not like they were playing a concert right near the tourist tour boats, which I'm not dissing on the tour boats, by the way. I used to work on one of those, so I'm not dissing those. But it's not like they were in the heart of Tourist Central. They were kind of amidst the real Seattle at Pier 48, especially back in 1994. So that's pretty cool that they did the show there. And one thing I also didn't realize it was post Unplugged that they did that. I didn't realize it was like a concert they did post Unplugged in New York. I mean, after Unplugged, a lot of folks just kind of associate that with pretty much the end. So, but I guess they did do some pretty active stuff. So I do look forward to checking out some tracks from that. It'll be the band with Pat Smear, which, it's kind of like my favorite incarnation. I like Pat Smear a lot, so I do like that inception of the band. But cool. So yeah, I look forward to checking out some tracks from that. And that brings us to our song of the day. Lucy is laying on my paper. Oh, there she is. Now she's astute. So the song of the day comes from a band called Frontier Ruckus, and the track is Foggy Like Windows. So this was sent to me by Ben over on Twitter. Ben, thank you. So Frontier Ruckus is a folk rock band, driving banjo, guitar, very haunting lyrics, a little bit of political undertones, which I appreciate. And the way I have it written down for this track, so this track, Foggy Lilac Windows, it was recorded outside. Ben sent me a YouTube video, and it was recorded outside. So it was on a winter night. It was kind of cool. So at first it was a little hard to listen to, but then I really, focused and wanted to absorb it. And the way I describe the tune, it's like Uncle Tupelo meets Bruce Springsteen, Thunder Road, Nebraska style songwriting. So it has this little bit of kind of heartland rock and roll, gritty 70s rock and roll sound mixed with like an Uncle Tupelo alt country Americana thing going on. Solid banjo, a kind of therapeutic driving banjo, and that's kind of in a lot of their catalog. It kind of pulls you in. I was surprised to find out that they were from Michigan. I got the vibe that they kind of have a hipster Billy thing going on. I got the vibe they were from the South somewhere. I kind of assumed, if I just listened to them and they were like, guess where they're from, I would guess like Athens, Georgia, or Asheville, North Carolina, something like that. And the video that was sent to me, I believe, was filmed in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I assumed they were that kind of band. They have a very contemporary hipster-Billy thing going on that also draws back to Nebraska, Thunder Road era Springsteen and Uncle Tupelo. I really dug the sound, really dug the lyrics. After checking out that track, I went to their Bandcamp and I spanned a lot of their albums and I listened to them for the entire day, and they have a new fan in me. So song of the day, Foggy Lilac Windows, Frontier Ruckus. I recommend checking out that song by Frontier Ruckus and then doing what I did, going over their Bandcamp, which you can just Google Frontier Ruckus Bandcamp and you'll find it. And you can Lucy's doing it right now. That's how inspired Lucy was. Lucy, guys, she is on her laptop. You can't see Lucy's laptop. It's out of the camera. But she is typing Frontier. I didn't know you could type that well, Lucy. That is so impressive. She is right now. She's putting her headphones in. Very considerate of you, Lucy. She knows. She's like, well, I can't listen to their tunes while the show's going on. Lucy took my advice. After the show today, please do take my advice. Frontier Ruckus, that track is Foggy Lilac Windows, and you can go to their Bandcamp and check out all their stuff, and I do recommend it. They're a fantastic band. They got a new fan in me. They're out of Detroit. You guys know I love Detroit, so that's another thing that's pretty cool. And yeah, I hope they tour. I hope they come over to my neck of the woods soon. All right, so we got another story here, and then we're going to correct some misinformation that the corporate media has been spreading a little bit concerning wages and the Bernie Sanders campaign. So we're going to do that in just a moment. First, we're going to go to one other story here. So facial recognition has been popping up a lot in the news and in the sphere. Sorry, there's like some cat dander here. My face is a little itchy. So facial recognition surveillance has been sprouting up. Police are using it. ICE is trying to utilize it. Not only is it Orwellian and disturbing on a very significant level, but also the software itself is very, very flawed. There's a racial bias in it. It's not always accurate. It's not a good thing. Through and through, no matter which way you cut this ain't a good thing. There have been situations with this over in London, so it's not unique to the United States. Facial recognition is a problem. And here is a former detective admitting that this ain't worth it, admitting that this ain't good. A detective, by the way, somebody whose line of work, if this was actually beneficial, would benefit them in their line of work. He's saying, Let's see what he has to say. Here's his letter. Facial recognition surveillance doesn't necessarily make you safer. Police officers are always in search of the next tool to transform investigations, and as this week's revelations that ICE is searching driver's license databases, many think facial recognitions could be that tool. But as a former homicide detective, I've seen firsthand that rushing to rely on technology without understanding its limits or having robust policies governing its use can be counterproductive and even dangerous. This is a detective saying this. And look at these warnings. Rushing to rely on technology without understanding its limits, in other words, the technology itself is very faulty, or having robust policies governing its use. In other words, we're not looking out for the public's right to privacy and security. If we don't recognize, this is getting back to the article here, if we don't recognize facial recognition's problems and implement policies to mitigate them, the technology will sweep innocent individuals into investigations, undercut police community relations, which, by the way, newsflash, police community relations are already in a pretty catastrophic place, and waste law enforcement resources. Almost any new technology comes with hyperbolic descriptions of what it can do. For police, this can result in investigators mismanaging leads or working backwards to fill in a narrative that fits what their seemingly impartial and authoritative tools tells them, rather than following evidence from the ground up. We've already seen this. In one case, police ignored proper procedure for photo arrays and instead asked an eyewitness, is this the guy, with a single photo obtained from a facial recognition search. This sort of tunnel vision is one of the main drivers of false accusations and wrongful convictions. So here you have a detective, somebody who is on the forefront of this stuff, saying, hey, this technology, it can't really do what we think it can do. What a lot of people are speculating it can do, the technology ain't there yet. It's very faulty. And there's been study after study revealing that to be the case too. This is very faulty software. And it's causing police to misuse it. It's causing other people to misuse it. And I know what you're thinking. A police officer misusing a tool. That sounds very out of character. I know, but bear with me through this fantasy for a little while longer. I know it seems crazy to wrap one's head around. But here you have a former detective. And they're also saying that, hey, we're not looking out for what's really happening here as far as people's safety, as far as people's privacy. We have not done the proper precautionary steps here. Sounds familiar. Sounds like when we had a former oil CEO say that fracking was completely ridiculous and a waste of time and resources. A former oil CEO admitted that. They said, yeah, this is ridiculous. And there's another, for instance, fracking. The proper homework was not done. The proper analysis were not done. Fracking is extremely dangerous for the environment. It's the reason we've been having these earthquakes in California. It's poisoning water wells. It's wrecking people's lands. And it's just padding the pockets of a few CEOs at the very top, where even somebody in the oil industry who was a CEO themselves said, we're losing money. This is bullshit. There's no need for this. They didn't even talk about the environmental disaster that it is. They just talked about the economic implications, which even when you just look at it from the economic endpoint, just put on blinders towards the environment. Even when you just look at it from the economic perspective, it's still a complete waste. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of time. Facial recognition software, same thing. Incredibly faulty, can be misused, setting us up for catastrophic results in regards to people's privacy, in regards to people's just civil rights in general. This opens up a can of worms in regards to police overreaching, in regards to police brutality. And the technology itself ain't there yet. It ain't even good technology. Who's admitting that? A detective. A detective. A detective saying this is bullshit. So there you have it. So speaking of correcting some misinformation, so you probably saw this over the weekend where the media, and it actually started with the Washington Post, started spreading all these articles about how the Bernie Sanders campaign is not actually paying its staff $15 an hour. They're paying its staff under $15 an hour, which, and of course the media was quick. Oh, how hypocritical, what's going on there? They're not paying their staff what they say they're supposed to pay their staff. Bernie Sanders responded to this. And so what headline came next? Well, here's a headline from Fox News today. Bernie Sanders campaigns announces it will cut hours to pay staffers $15 an hour minimum wage, prompting mockery. That's the headline from Fox News. So the corporate media narrative that's going around right now, Bernie Sanders wasn't paying his staff $15 an hour. He was paying them less than that. He got called out for it. So they said, well, we're going to cut your hours so that you can get paid $15 an hour. So that it equals about $15 an hour. Okay. What actually happened? Is that actually what went down? You might be surprised to find out that no, that was a corporate media hit job once again. That was information distorted and misrepresented. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it seems like they did it on purpose. It seems like they got this so ridiculously wrong that it's hard for me to come to the conclusion that this was just a journalistic error. All right, so let's start at the beginning. What really was going on this weekend? All right. So here is a screenshot of what's really going on. The truth of minimum wage fake news spreading. In May, the Bernie campaign and union came to an agreement that all field organizers will have an annual salary of $36,000 instead of an hourly salary. This salary was based on 5 days a week of work, 40 hours. On an hourly base salary, this would have been $17 an hour. In that same month, Bernie's campaign manager made a proposition to the union to change the 5-day agreement to a 6-day agreement with a hike of a $42,000 annual salary. The union rejected this proposal as the raise would have elevated field staff to a pay level responsible for paying more of their own health care costs. This is because Bernie campaign pays all premiums for salaried employees making $36,000 or less per year. Those making more are covered at a rate of 85%. On July 11th, only 8 days before this WAPO report, some field officers raised the concern in staff Slack channel that even though the initial agreement was 40 hours a week, they are now working about 60 hours a week, and by 60 hours estimate, their annual pay of $36,000 will only be $13 an hour. Faze replied that instead of direct talks, talk through the union, which is standard procedure. The union is preparing a new proposal, which has not yet been submitted for Faze, and WAPO got access to this. In the draft of that proposal, they are asking for $46,800 for field organizers and $62,400 for regional field directors. The draft also asked the campaign to cover 100% of healthcare costs. There is no information that the campaign has ever rejected any union proposal. So in other words, what does this mean? In other words, the Bernie Sanders campaign is unionized, and they're doing exactly what a union does. This was the initial agreement, which, by the way, initial agreement, $17 an hour. So what's changing? Well, they're finding out they need to work more. They're finding out there's more for them to do. Why are they working more? Why is there more for them to do? I don't know. One reason might be because they're not only running a campaign, they're also facing up against the Democratic establishment and the corporate media. Maybe they're having to work more because the corporate media does smear job hit pieces on Bernie on a near daily basis. And by the way, this is freaking one of them. So that's what's actually happened. The real headline here is, hey, Bernie Sanders campaign has a union, and they're doing exactly what a union is supposed to do. And the campaign is responding exactly how a campaign is supposed to respond to a union. Hey, here's the deal. It ends up being $17 an hour. Great. Time goes on. Hey, this deal's not working. A campaign is a very, very ever-moving process. A campaign, there's a timeline. There is a window of opportunity. It changes. And I'll tell you what, I've never been a staffer myself on a campaign. It's not something I'm looking to do. It's not for me. And when I say campaign, I'm referring to a candidate. I have done campaigns for causes. I've worked on a net neutrality campaign. So I know some about the anatomy of a campaign. I've never been a campaign for a candidate. That's what I meant by that statement. But I do know some friends that went into politics. They worked on campaigns for different individuals. And, it's one of those things where you work until, and you just get whatever your pay that was agreed upon. If you're getting hourly, you get hourly. But if you have a salary, which I know folks, they've done it on salary, they work until the work is done, and they just get paid that salary. They don't have a union to negotiate them, or they didn't have a union to negotiate for them. They didn't get to complain. They didn't get to say they were working too much. They just had to put the hours in and get the job done because it was campaign season, and they had an election to win. So here you actually have a campaign that has a union, that has union protections. So the only headline here, there should be no headline here because this is just standard procedure. This is just how it works. Wouldn't you expect something like this in a campaign? Like, hey, it turns out we're working more. We have to negotiate again. Okay, let's talk about it. That's what a union is for. That's why a union exists. They're doing what a union's supposed to do. And the campaign's responding. They're responding the way a higher up's supposed to respond. Hey, talk to the union. Let's figure this out, and we're gonna get to the negotiating table soon. So there you go. That's how over the weekend, all that talk about they don't actually get $15 an hour, that was faulty information at best and deliberately deceptive information. So as far as today is concerned, with the whole, Bernie said they're going to cut people's hours. What really happened there? All right, we're going to go. We're going to go there and find out. So here's the article that they're pulling that from, that Bernie said, oh, okay, well, to make sure they get $15 an hour, we're just going to cut their hours. Here's what really happened there. Bernie Sanders defends staff compensation after complaints his staff isn't being paid $15 an hour. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders defended his campaign compensation package Friday after a Washington Post story highlighted concerns among staffers that they were not receiving the $15 an hour wages. All right, so here's what Bernie said. I'm very proud to be the first presidential candidate to recognize a union and negotiate a union contract. And that contract was ratified by the employees of the campaign. And it not only provides pay of at least $15 an hour, it also provides, I think, the best healthcare benefits that any employer can provide for our field organizers. So he was disappointed that some folks went to the press instead of just handling it via the union. And how this all initially leaked, I don't know. All right, so here's something that we already talked about. Basically, it comes out to being $17 an hour, but they're saying that they've been having to work more than that. So here's the big part of the article that Fox News took and ran. For a staffer working 40 hours a week, that comes out to about $17 an hour. But 40-hour work weeks on presidential campaigns are rare. Sanders said that the campaign will limit the number of hours staffers work to 42 or 43 each week to ensure they're making the equivalent of $15 an hour. So this is the paragraph that Fox News kind of took and ran with. Now, again, let's take this paragraph in context. What's going on right now? The unions are negotiating. The union and the people overseeing the campaign are negotiating. They're trying to figure shit out. They're trying to come to an agreement. So in the meantime, Bernie Sanders is telling folks, hey, don't work to the point where you're getting less than $15 an hour. I know there's a lot to be done because we're dealing with bullshit like this all the time. So in other words, during a negotiation, Bernie Sanders in the campaign is trying to assure that workers get at least $15 an hour. So they're saying, hey, don't go over 42, 43 hours a week. And we're working to figure this out. Maybe everyone's going to decide, hey, we need to go full throttle here. We need to go 60 hours a week to get this thing to the finish line, and we're willing to do it because we want to win. So you see how Fox News just cherry-picked that little sentiment, completely didn't represent the overall context of what was going on, and saying, yeah, he's telling people work less so we can get work less, so it ends up being like $15 an hour. Now people are mocking him. They're making it out like this is just about, oh, we don't want to increase salaries. No, it's not about that. It's about rolling with the punches that a campaign is inevitably going to give. And the Bernie Sanders campaign, unlike other campaigns, has things in place to actually help workers and protect workers. That's something other campaigns don't have. The Bernie Sanders campaign actually has it. And somehow, through straight up distortion of information, the corporate media has figured out a way to somehow use that to smear Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders is not perfect. There are plenty of valid criticisms of Bernie Sanders. There are plenty. But you don't really hear them from the corporate media, do you? I mean, in a very sad way, it's actually impressive that they are such amazing propagandists. They were somehow able to spin this. And it wasn't just Fox News, by the way. The Washington Post, Democracy Dies in Darkness, they're doing their role to help. They led the way. Washington Post. What's something that Bernie Sanders did? He had an act called Stop Bezos, which was a living wage act, which called out Jeff Bezos individually. What does Jeff Bezos own? The Washington Post. Is it making sense now? Is it adding up now? So the real headline should be, hey, because Bernie Sanders has a union, they actually don't have to worry about being overworked to the point where they're not making a decent hourly wage. They get to negotiate that. They get to figure out solutions. And while they're negotiating it, in the meantime, no one's going to make less than $15 an hour. They're going to make sure. They're going to say, don't work to the point where you're making less than that. Which, by the way, they still get a decent full-time salary, by the way. It's not like he's saying, oh, work 10 hours a week. No, you're still working over 40 hours a week. He's just saying, don't go more than that because we want to make sure you get $15 an hour. And in the meantime, we're negotiating to figure out a long-term solution for this. This is a total standard and healthy procedure. And the corporate media is distorting it to try to make the Sanders campaign look bad. That's just straight up deliberative, deceptive propaganda. That's all that is. And it's spawned from the Washington Post, whose owner Bernie has criticized and is trying to get to pay living wages. Interesting, huh? All right. Let me go to you guys. George Allen, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. Love the songs of the day. Suggestions, Ron. Kate Tempest is incredible. I really dig the love the songs of the day. Suggestions, Ron. Kate Tempest is incredible. I really dig the other bands too. How am I going to learn all this on guitar? One song at a time, George. I'm glad you're enjoying the songs of the day. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for the super chat contribution. And just take it one song at a time. Elephants on Coke. Did you see Kamala's interview on CNN about Medicare for All? I did not, Elephants on Coke, but tweet it to me and we'll cover it on the show tomorrow. Also, a lot of young yuppies. Geez, Elephants on Coke. Don't make me say that 5 times fast. You're trying to stump me. Young yuppies. Come on. Also, a lot of young yuppies like Yang, according to Elephants on Coke, and we need to convince them that his UBI and Medicare for All proposals are not good. I agree his UBI proposal is not good. Medicare for All, I thought he was kind of just on board with Bernie's plan and from AHL's plan. I didn't know his Medicare for All proposal was different. So I'll need to look more into that. I was not aware he had his own Medicare for All plan, if that's what you're suggesting. But I agree that his UBI plan is not it's not a good idea because it takes it cuts social services to give you that UBI, and it wouldn't have the effects that we would want to have. I do think there is a way you can do UBI. I do think UBI is possible, but Yang's plan is not the right one. Okay. DCK Punk, source for this, please. Are you referring to the Bernie stuff? It's yeah, I mean that's just kind of direct from the campaign. I mean that whole thing was sourced in the Des Moines Register article. That whole thing was sourced by various staffers on Twitter. So yeah, I mean the exact same thing. I read it from that Twitter snapshot because it was just easier to go through that way. But all that stuff is in that Des Moines Register article that we went through. Like they're acknowledging it was $17 an hour. Now they're negotiating again, and that's really all that's happening. So, and I think other folks have said this on Twitter. I think Katie Halper said something similar. The people criticizing this, they're just displaying the fact that they don't know how a union's supposed to work. So there you go there. George Allen, thank you very much for another Super Chat contribution. Years ago, Ron, on the pier in Seattle, we saw Slater Kinney, and the headliner was Patti Smith. Wow, George, I am a little envious. Damn, that sounds awesome. Was it on the same pier? Was it on Pier 48? Slater Kinney, I have gotten to see Slater Kinney live before. They're phenomenal. Patti Smith, I've never gotten to see. Man, Slater Kinney and Patti Smith. That is awesome, George. Good for you. That is so cool. And Corey Heinlein, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. And thank you all. Thank you all for the articles today, too. We are out of time. Guys, thank you so much for your amazing articles. Thank you so much for being part of this. Tour dates, I got them. First of all, local folks, Los Angeles folks. I say local because that's where I live, Los Angeles. Los Angeles folks, July 25th, this coming Thursday, Ron Placone and Friends is happening at Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank. Amy Miller from Kill Rockstar Records And Comedy Central is going to be there. John Darnell from Comedy Central is going to be there. Rick Overton is going to be there. And Rick's hilarious. He's won an Emmy. He's had an HBO special. He's been in every movie you've ever seen. And he's a good buddy of mine. And you also might know Rick from the Jimmy Dore Show. He's appeared on there a number of times too. And Bill Conway from The Hard Times, one of my favorite satirical websites out there. He's going to be doing a spot. Going to be a really, really cool show. Samantha Hale, she's hilarious. She just put out her album. She's going to be doing a spot. It's going to be a fantastic show. If you're in Los Angeles, email me. I'll get you on the guest list for that show. How's that sound? Say you saw it on Get Your News On with Ron. I'll get you on the guest list for that show. Vegas, Graham Elwood and myself for the Progressive Comedy Tour. We're going to be in Vegas this Saturday, July 27th. Don't wait. Get your tickets. Myself, Graham Elwood, Progressive Comedy Tour. We're coming back to Vegas. Vegas, you rocked the first time. We sold out a spot the first time. Show up again. Let's have fun again. Let's party again. It was a good time the first time. Let's have a good time again. Also, September, we're going to the Northern Plains. September 4th, which B-dubs, I'll see you there. September 4th, Omaha, Nebraska. September 5th, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. September 6th, Madison, Wisconsin. September 7th, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And September 8th, Iowa City, Iowa. Get all those tickets at ronfalcone.com. November, it looks like we're coming to Australia. Don't have all the info yet, but we're working on it. November, we're coming to Australia. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. ronfalcone.com for all those tickets. If you want to support this show on the sustainability end, please do consider becoming a patron. For a Give What You Can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content. You get dialogues between me and Lucy. You get my album. You get full stand-up clips not available to the public. And we're doing a new series called Getting to Know the Patrons, where I highlight what some patrons are up to. One of the patrons at Get Your News On with Ron has a plant-based website where they do plant-based potlucks. Another is doing an action for Julian Assange. We talk about all that stuff. And if you're a patron, you can be highlighted as well. Patreon.com/ronfalcone to learn more about that. And it's a give what you can level. So whatever you can afford to give, everyone gives all the same stuff. If that's not your thing, I totally understand. Please do like these videos, share these videos. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. When you watch the videos, have a separate window going where all the ads play through. And don't do that for me. Do that for all the content creators you know and love. Do that for all of us, because it helps sustain our channel. Guys, thank you so much. George, thank you. DCK Punk, thank you. Elephants on Coke, thank you. And I think that's everyone. Yeah. Corey, thank you. George, Elephants on Coke, DCK Punk, Corey, thank you. Everybody, thank you for your amazing articles. Thank you for your amazing contributions. Get Your News On with Ron would not be possible without you. You know it. You know the drill. In the meantime, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. We always start at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time, right here on YouTube. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Happy Music Monday, and peace.